Salutations everybody, and welcome into another One Piece video. Today we're here for the post-game show for chapter 1161. So just in case this is your first time tuning into one of these videos, how it works is that I like to go through the comment section of the previous spoiler video just to see what everybody's talking about. The theories, the takes, the opinions, which is the same thing as their takes. We're here to digest it and go through it together. So with that being said, let's hop right in to the show. So, top comment right here with 170 likes, not bad. They say, to be fair, having an unconscious baby in a treasure chest being carried by pirates during a battle is a great way to explain why nobody knew there was a baby in the chest before setting sail. That is true, and a part of me does wonder, what did Dragon think about the Roger Pirates at this time? Because that's kind of who he's entrusting the baby to, right? For all he knows, he could be giving this baby off to Kaido, to Big Mom, to Whitebeard, to Roxy Zebek. Was he hoping that Roger would take the baby? And if so, what does he even think about Roger at this point in time? Because you gotta imagine, Marines, they hear the most absurd rumors about pirates. Think back to the people who've seen Luffy. They call him a demon, a monkey man, a cannibal. I made up the cannibal part, but we have seen Marines say wild things about pirates they haven't met before. So I'd assume Roger's kind of the same way. Like maybe Garp told Dragon that Roger was one of the good guys out there, but I'm not even too sure if he'd do that, right? So I think Dragon definitely did take a gamble here, dropping Shanks in a treasure chest, and I definitely do not think that was his first option. Well, I don't have to think, because in the chapter, we see that Dragon is actually trying to go to a marine ship with the babies before he's ambushed by Saint Maffy. Another thing I do want to ask as well, even if the Roger Pirates knew that an unconscious baby was in a treasure chest that they were taking, would they still take it anyways? I think so. The Roger Pirates, at least in my opinion, they do seem generally benevolent. So if they saw a baby in need of help, I'd like to imagine they probably just take it aboard. But that's just me. It's so effing sad if Whitebeard, Oyaji, is actually loyal to Rocks till the end, but the child he protected from the horrors of the WG turns into a monster that ruined his family. Yeah. I mean, if you compare even just Blackbeard to Rocks, like people love Rocks, and then as far as Blackbeard goes, they love him as an antagonist, but they don't love Blackbeard's personality per se. So it's interesting, right? I do want to see if Blackbeard knows about what transpired here at God Valley. Does he know that Whitebeard was seemingly loyal to the very end? Of course, God Valley is not over yet, so for all we know, Whitebeard does betray Rocks or abandon Rocks. That is yet to be seen. Like, in my opinion, just ballparking it, I do think we will spend at least 4 to 5 more chapters here on this island before we cut away back to King Herald. I do think we're getting the full God Valley from start to finish. And what we're getting today, yesterday, and even last week is only just the appetizer. We're just nibbling at the feet and toes of God Valley right now. So it's too quick to judge. Garp, this fire can't even roast a prime rib, Lin. Unironically, one of the coldest lines in One Piece. Cold? No. Fire? Yes. I do wonder though, right? What is going through Garp's mind while he's here at God Valley? Because he's over here talking about fishing for sea kings when referring to Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom. He's talking about cooking up some steak. Like, what is the next line Garp is going to drop? Yeah. I just want to crack a cold one right now. Like, damn, dude. Garp is having fun, brother. And, for Garp, this is like, I'd compare this to double EXP weekend on Call of Duty. All of the heavy-hitting pirates are here. Like, Garp is living his best life. And then Dragon on the other end, he's freaking suffering. It's so funny. Father, not like son. I think Oda, showing Rayleigh and Shakky being lovey-dovey, plays an important role here. Dragon saw them being in love sincerely. He also saw Roger's crew have camaraderie too, supporting and cheering each other. So he decided to leave baby Shanks to them with hope they will raise Shanks with love by putting Shanks into one of the treasure chests after he heard Roger say to the crew to take the treasure. That could be it. Dragon could be limited on his options. I'd like to imagine that Dragon would approach his dad first, saying, "Hey dad, baby, what do I do with this?" And then Garp's like, hey, get rid of it. What are you doing? And then now that he can't turn to his dad, and now that he can't turn to the Marines, he does have to turn to Roger after witnessing this event. But like I said, it is a gamble because there's no guarantee that the Roger pirates will walk away from this island with every single treasure chest. Like, I'm sure the Rocks pirates get some. I'm sure the Celestial Dragons also reclaim some of their treasure too. So Dragon really is taking a big gamble here. Or you could even look at this and say it was fate, right? Dragon didn't know who would get it. And he's like, okay, like I'm just gonna leave this in fate's hands, which I think might have happened. Or for all we know, Dragon literally just put the chest on the ship, right? Maybe that happened, right? He's like, okay, I don't want fate to play a role in this. I have bad luck. Let's just take baby Shanks, put him in a chest, and then drop him off on the ship. Better the Roger pirates than the Rocks pirates, at least in my opinion. I do think, well, okay, if Shanks was raised by Kaido or Big Mom or Whitebeard, how would he turn out? I think Whitebeard, he'd be okay. Kaido, maybe. You know, Kaido does value strength, so maybe Shanks would be like the son Kaido always wanted? But then again, Kaido is still young. Wait. Kaido's still like a teenager, right? Yeah, a teenage parent, maybe not. Big Mom would be an interesting one because Big Mom has such a big family already. Having an adoptive son, Shanks, would be pretty cool. Like, imagine we get like some twisted, distorted future where Shanks leaves with Big Mom and we have Katakuri and Shanks just doubling up on each other. That'd be kind of cool. Twisted, but cool. The random pictures you add are frying me, brother. Yeah. Hey, sometimes I do just have to add in the random pictures, man. And I have a whole stash of cursed memes that I like to drop here. Rocks is definitely going to be the one to injure-kill the Knights of God first, probably after his wife gets killed. And that's when the Roger crew sees and realizes how to defeat them. I agree with this. I do think that we will, as much as I love the Knights of God, I do think that we will see at least 2 of them die here on this island. And Rocks, I think, is the best candidate for a character to discover their weakness, to kill them. And it kind of goes back to this, right? I like how the community pretty much just assumes that Eris, Rocks' wife, will die here on this island, and that is what's gonna send him into, rage mode, essentially. And yeah, like, so far in this chapter, right, we saw Maffy get cut in half, we saw St. Sommers get blown through a wall by Rayleigh and Whitebeard. But both of those attacks had no Conqueror's Haki behind them, no coding whatsoever. And we know that Whitebeard and Rayleigh have Conqueror's Haki, but they just did not utilize it in those attacks. And that's most likely because they do not know what the Knights of God are capable of yet. Strength-wise, are they capable of a lot? Maybe. I think their damage output is pretty decent. Durability is kind of ass, but that regeneration, though, that regeneration is a legitimate problem. Even if you can overwhelm and beat an opponent down 100 times, after the 101st time, you're going to start to get tired, right? Eventually, that regeneration will wear down even the mightiest of opponents, which I kind of wonder, could you knock out a Holy Knight by just injuring them too much? Like, at some point, though, right, we don't know how the regeneration works quite yet. We don't know the nuance of it, but could you beat a Holy Knight down so many times that they're just so exhausted they don't get back up? Which, I guess a great example of this would be like the Sins out of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, how they can endlessly regenerate, but after a certain point in time, the regeneration just wears off because it's draining them too much. I wonder, right? I do want to see more of the regeneration powers just so we know the min-max of it. You forgot to mention, we got a whole new family name. The Satchels, yeah. In the spoiler video, I did kind of gloss over that, but yes, Maffy is from the newly found Satchel family. Pretty cool stuff. We now have 13 out of 20 OG families potentially. So yes, the Satchels are the newest addition. I think next chapter, if Oda keeps the ball rolling, I think we'll get another brand new family name revealed. Last week, we got the Bavettes. This week, we have the Satchels. What is the next family name going to be? This says, crazy how the Goku parallel seems deeper than it looks. Shamrocks is like Raditz, with each pair of brothers being separated due to an extinction-level event on their homeland, which leads to brothers playing for opposite teams. And yeah, I enjoy this. I really do like the whole thing where Shanks hit his head. Of course, I think it's more of a parallel rather than a, oh, if Shanks never hit his head, he's going to be a Celestial Dragon evil guy. But it is a fun thought to play with, right? And yeah, Goku would be the Shanks in this equation, and Raditz would be like the Shamrock. Hopefully Hopefully, Shamrock is a lot stronger than Raditz, but that's just me. Well, to be fair, you know, Sand Saga Raditz was a monster, but he quickly got outscaled. And, you know, I'm one of those guys. Of course, no reason for Goku or Vegeta or anybody to do this, but I always wished we got Raditz back. Like, oh, Dragon Balls, bring back my brother, bring back my fellow Saiyan. Like I said, no reason to do it because Raditz is inherently evil. But man, Raditz at Planet Namek, you know, Raditz fighting Majin Buu, like the potential, man, the potential, right? There's something about that Son family that's just off the charts, man. Like, just imagine Uncle Raditz training Gohan, or, oh, Raditz at the Tournament of Power. I'm a Raditz fan. You know, I always liked Raditz, but of course, he's always been done dirty by a lot of Dragon Ball games, except for Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 2. You know, he was a tough boss, or was it 1? But hey, I'm just a big Raditz fan, man. The potential was there. I have fond memories of this guy, especially from one of the first Dragon Ball games where you had to like twirl the thumbsticks. That was horrible, but it did leave a impression on me about this guy, you know. Don't sleep on Raditz, y'all. Don't sleep on Raditz. Send him to the hyperbolic time chamber. God Valley seems to be about growing up for Roger. He let go of his infatuation with Shakky. He comes face to face with the true power of the WG and probably witnesses the death of Rox. And he essentially becomes a father to one of what looks like the last hopes of the world. Yeah, he does receive the Child of Destiny shortly after this island. And, you know, I think you do hit the nail on the head. A lot of people have talked about this for the past couple of months now, but Roger must have witnessed something on this island to send him towards the One Piece. Because right now, he's just a traveling pirate. He's hanging out, he's chilling. But we know that afterwards, that is when he wants to explore the full world. And then after that, he goes after the One Piece. Maybe after what happens here, this is what sends him on that more direct path. And of course, when it comes to the power of the world government, I wonder what his reaction is going to be to Emu. Because Rox, we already got that. You know, Rox was like, oh, I can't do anything right now. I'll be back later. What will Roger's mentality be if Gunko transitions over to Emu? Will Roger have that same thing where he wants to fight Emu in the future? Or is he simply going to say, hey, I'm good. I just want to learn about the history and then I'll make my decision later. So this says, Garp, ignoring his injured and traumatized son and walking over the bodies of innocent families murdered by celestial dragons to Ore Farm and fight some pirates. I love it, dude. Hey, that is Garp's character. He's having fun on this island. And personally, I don't hate it. You know, I love it. To be fair, I kind of wish Dragon called out to his dad, because Dragon was just hiding behind a rock while the whole Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido confrontation was happening. But if Dragon really said, hey, Dad, over here, like, what would Garp have done? Because I like to imagine Garp would pay his son some attention, but maybe not. You know, maybe not. Maybe he's like, hey, son, hurry up. Help me chase these pirates. Drop the kids. Come on. You know, Roger's over here. Son, let's go. That would be hilarious. Son, somebody needs to fight Rayleigh. Come on. Show me what you got. That sounds like a Garp thing. Just yelling at his son, fight Scopper, son, get up one more time. Mappy knocked you down, come on. He reminds me of like an Asian dad. And I think that's why I really love Garp. Zeus was so traumatized by Garp, he's never spoken about God Valley since. Okay, that's some pretty funny headcanon. Yeah, I was wondering, and you know, I still do wonder if Zeus will ever drop lore about Big Mom or God Valley, because he can. You know, Zeus knows a lot. Unless he has like Alzheimer's or dementia or something, he should be able to just reiterate everything that happened at God Valley to Nami and the Straw Hats, but he hasn't yet. Maybe this is why. You know, he just remembers how his attack combined with Prometheus didn't work. And he's like, yep, I'm just gonna zip my mouth about this one. That's embarrassing. Maffy, being surprised someone would even want Garling's babies is really funny. Even the celestial dragons are like, who would want anything from this asshole? Yeah, they don't like Garling that much. You know, I think they all acknowledge that Garling isn't a great guy. I mean, hell, even Sommers. The camaraderie there is non-existent. Sommers saw Shakky, and he said, yeah, you know, Garling's just gonna get you anyways. So I might as well kill you, you know? I'm not benefiting from this. Like, you would think, you know, they would have a relationship kind of like Roger and Rayleigh, where Roger's like, oh, I want Shakky, but I know that Shakky wants Rayleigh and Rayleigh wants Shakky. I'm gonna let them do their thing. Sommers was not the same way. Sommers said, I'm gonna kill this girl. I'm not getting anything out of this. I think that's hilarious. It kind of reminds me of how they described the Rock's pirates. Because do you remember that? Back when Sengoku and Garp were talking about the Rock's pirates, they were like, yeah, you know, they had a lot of egos, a lot of cooks in the kitchen. They did not work well together. Brother, that's the God Knights, you know? In this chapter, minus the fodder pirates, the Rock's pirates are kind of working well together, in my opinion, right? We got the combination attacks. We have them all running towards a singular direction. No betrayal has happened yet, except from, like I said, fodder pirates who really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. Unless they all just turn on rocks and they just, I don't know, shoot them in the back. But right now, man, the Knights of God seem like the most dysfunctional group here. If the reason Shanks is good is because he has brain damage, then that would genuinely be hilarious. Celestial dragons will be redeemed by dropping them on their heads on Moss. Yeah, that's so funny. Like I said, I don't think this is the case. I think it's mainly just like oh, you know, the reason Maffy never saw Shanks is because he was conked, he wasn't crying, blah, blah, blah. It's also a nice little callback to Dragon Ball. But the idea that the brain damage is what did it is so funny. I saw somebody do a meme. You know, to those of you who read JJK, there's like a scene where Gojo's brain is just bleeding out. And people are saying that's Shanks on a daily basis. Like, oh, you know, every day Shanks is battling brain damage. He's still bleeding right now. Oh, that's so funny. During Kuma's flashback, when we see God Valley for the first time, Roger calls Rocks by his name. In every other chapter, he calls him with nicknames like Porcupine. So whatever is happening with Rocks, it must be serious enough to make Roger talk like that. That's a really good point. Hold up, Alvin! You kind of cooked with this. I love this. You're so right. Yeah, well, we don't see Roger talking to Rocks super often. I think that just happened like once or twice. But you are right. He called him Porcupine. And in the Kuma flashback, he calls him by his actual name. So yeah, I do agree. Something serious must have taken place where Roger knew that he couldn't joke around anymore. Which I do think the death of Eris, Rox's wife, would be one of those scenarios. Like, you wouldn't want to bring up nicknames after his wife has died and maybe after his son is being attacked by celestial dragons. Not the time or place. Like, imagine, you know, Luffy witnesses Shanks destroy Eustace's fleet, or, well, his fleet, his ship and his crew, and then Luffy's like, hey, Jaggy, how was the fight? Like, no. I think Luffy would have a little bit more tact. But then again, this is Luffy we're talking about, so I'm not too sure. You know, bad parallel on my part. Bonnie saw Kuma's memories of God Valley. She could possibly confirm some things too. That is very true. And funny enough, when it comes to Bonnie, we actually have not seen her for quite some time. The last time we saw her was with Frankie, Ripley, and Lilith, but that was about 15 chapters ago. So yeah, I do wonder how Bonnie is faring currently. And if I were to hold a poll, would you guys rather be here at God Valley witnessing all these events, or would you rather be back on Elbaf witnessing what's going on there? Because I think that is a fun one, right? Like, would you rather see God Valley more or the Elbaf fighting more? Considering you do get both, which one would you want to consume first? Personally, I love both conflicts, but God Valley, brother. We're getting so many characters we probably will never see again. A great one, and one that isn't mentioned in the spoilers, by the way, which I'll go and bring it up here and later as well. But Captain John. Dude, look at Captain John in this chapter. Does he have Eustace Kid's devil fruit? Does that guy have the frickin' Jika no Mi? Because he does have like a metallic arm in a couple of panels. And it's like, yo, we've never seen that before with him. So yeah, like that is something that we would not have gotten if we didn't stay here for prolonged time at God Valley. 611, what the hell is that? I don't know what you're talking about. This says, she got Kizaru's fruit, she got unalived there, and then he got it somehow. It's not bad. You know, we are so far back in the past that we could very well see repeated devil fruits. I mean, hell, a prime example would be the last comment, right? I talked about how Eustace Kid's fruit is probably here through Captain John. So yeah, you know, her having Kizaru's devil fruit, the Pika Pika no Mi, I think is pretty damn awesome. Of course, that would be like another layer to the regeneration. Like imagine you regenerate, but you also have a Logia, so you also regenerate because of that. You're kind of like double dipping, huh? This says, not sure why. People think Loki is narrating God Valley. He was only narrating the interaction with Herald, and then Isa decided to do a separate flashback. Like, come on, guys, use our heads. Yes. To be fair, I do think a lot of people know this for the most part. I like the meme that Loki's narrating everything. It's a big meme where it's like, oh, you know, Hyruden gave Loki 3 minutes and here we are, like months and months later. But like I said, I think everybody knows this already. It's just a big meme. But it does beg a good question, though, of when does Loki's actual flashback start? Because I do think while Loki wants to explain how King Herald died and what happened that day, he does have to set up some things. Like, he might actually explain to Luffy and Hiruden what happened after God Valley. Like, oh, after God Valley, King Herald made a deal with the world government, which led to his death. Or, oh, you know, he's interacting with this guy, and then this guy later kills King Herald. Like, at some point, we will have to say, okay, this is when the actual Loki flashback starts. And of course, you know, when it comes to all this, Oda typically, at least sometimes, will say what the Straw Hats know and don't know. Like, we could leave the flashback and Luffy mentions, like, God Valley, or maybe he touches on Marie's Raw, or the day King Herald died, or when Loki goes off to sea. So I do think, you know, while we might not get the God Valley perspective given to the Straw Hats, I do think it's a legitimate question to ask what they do and don't know. And we won't know that for sure until, like I said, either after the flashback or when we get the day King Herald dies. Like, if we see that somebody at God Valley actually killed King Herald, or somebody from the Holy Land, then yeah, that is probably where the flashback starts, because that would be important to the day he died, right? So there are, like, actual questions to ask about this. But like I said, I think most people are memeing when they talk about Loki explaining every single detail. Like, the memes are hilarious. Bro, Garp stocks are through the damn roof. Yeah, Garp fans are eating good. Of course, people who do not like what Garp is doing on the island, they think his stocks are down. But if you're just a true and blue Garp fan that has fun with his character, yeah, his stocks are looking pretty damn good. He was always him, brother. Always him. I kind of wish we saw Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom fight Garp for at least a little bit. I know they said they didn't want to do it because it'd be time consuming, but man, I would have loved to see how Whitebeard and Kaido stacked up against him. Also interesting, you know, somebody mentioned that Kaido did not put Garp in his top 5 list, and I wonder why, right? Because Garp was him back then. And it's like, yo, Kaido had people back at their primes on his list, like Odin, for example, and Roger and Rox. Like, why was Garp not there? Is it because he never, like, directly fought Garp? Because in this chapter, Kaido did want to fight him, but he didn't have the chance. So maybe that's why he's not on there. Like, oh, I heard Garp is strong. He should be on the top 5, but I've never fought him, so I can't really put him on there. Kind of like Mihawk. People are like, oh, why is Mihawk not on the list? Probably because Kaido just never fought Mihawk. You know, that interaction just has not really happened. My theory about why Dragon is considered the most dangerous guy to the WG with a massive bounty is being reinforced by him actually fighting a Knight of God. His bounty is definitely because of that incident rather than the actions of the revolutionary. He literally stole a child of the head of knights, and since he was found out, there is no denying that he was persecuted for that. This is a tough one because in the chapter, Maffy thinks that Dragon is actually dead. You know, when she's talking to the caretaker, which, to be fair, you know, this is from the spoiler video, so we didn't have all the details yet. But Maffy did say, oh yeah, you know, that Marine is probably dead already. I'll bring back the baby. So there is a chance that they don't know who actually did it. They don't know Dragon's actual name. He was wearing a hood, and Maffy did shoot him from behind. So I don't think Maffy ever got a clear look at Dragon. She just called him that Marine. And as far as like Dragon goes, I think, for me at least, right, you can believe in this, which I think is fine too, right? I think eventually they will credit Dragon for this event, maybe. It depends how the rest of God Valley goes down. But I do put this on Dragon being possibly one of the only characters out there in the world who is actively going against the WG. That is why I think he's the most dangerous guy. More so than all of this. I think this is just like flavoring, right? Like Dragon being a revolutionary, that's the meat and potatoes, but Dragon also stealing Shanks and then potentially knowing about that, that's like the spice that they add on to it. Like maybe Dragon just walks around saying, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I stole your son. And they're like, damn it, now he's even more dangerous than before. Now we really hate him. The do it later bastard is such a bro thing to say. Like, hey, we got you, your girl. Now it's time to effing go. I like that. Yeah, I mean, that is true, right? Like, they're having this lovey-dovey moment. And then you have, you know, Roger fighting Whitebeard, you know, Scopper fighting pirates. It's like, dude, we book it, man. Come on. Like, if you want to confess, do it on the ship. Damn it. This might be my favorite chapter of the flashback. I actually love the titled subplot of romance between Rayleigh and Shakky. Oda is cooking with the writing per usual. And yeah, you know what's funny? Remember back when we got the reveal that Shakky was the treasure of Hachinosu? So many people were complaining about that. So many people didn't want to believe it. They're like, no, Shakky didn't matter. Shacky's not the reason why these guys go. But now here we are like months later. I can't tell if people just kind of gave up on fighting that point, or if people really just came around and they're like, oh, you know what? I actually like the Shakky plotline. Personally, I'm a romantic. I said it during my chapter review, but when I read it, I was like, yo, like this Rayleigh Shakky portion, I really loved it. As a romantic at heart, I thought this part was phenomenal. And like you said, the title of the chapter, I think just hits extra hard. And this right here so far has evoked the most emotion and reaction out of me here at God Valley. What if the actual conflict was when Roger and Garp found out about why Xebec was actually there and they sympathized with him and, quote, fought him together so that his wife and kid can get away during the chaos, and during the fight, the God Knights or Emu gets involved and Xebec took them on himself so that Roger and Garp could get away, and that's how he, quote, died. Boom. Marines are like, we have to spin this in a way that makes the Marines look good amongst themselves, while at the same time suppressing the God Valley incident to the public. I think this is a growing sentiment. People are saying, and I agree with it too, that Garp's title of the hero of the Marines might be a little bit of a twist. Kind of like how Smoker is the hero of Alabasta, even though he didn't fight Crocodile like that. It was actually Luffy. And then of course Kobe is the future hero of the Marines because of Rocky Port. Okay, they don't call him the future hero of the Marines, they call him the hero of Rocky Port, but we do know that Kobe teamed up with Blackbeard and Law to take down Wang Ji. I think the same thing happened here. Garp definitely helped Roger or Xebec, and then because we had to make the Marines look good, he is then called the hero of the Marines. The tricky part is that people say that Sengoku himself is spinning this in a light to where the Marines look great, but I don't know. Sengoku, he's such an unreliable narrator, but we have to remember that he wasn't here. Everything he knows about this conflict is probably from reports and from Garp. And if Garp doesn't want to talk about it, I can't really blame Sengoku for spinning this the way he has. Was it purposeful? Was that simply all he knew? We don't know yet. And a funny thing that people have been bringing up is like, yo, where are the Marines at? Where are the admirals at? Why'd they send Garp and not like, the Kizaru of the era over there? Where's Kong? Why is he behind a desk? Where's Sengoku? Where's Sudu? And I think that's a very valid question, especially with big names here like Rox and Roger. But at the same time, I feel like Oda just doesn't want to bring too many people here to this island. We already have so many Rox pirates here already. And as it stands right now, I don't think we're going to spend meaningful time with most of them. So if he brings in even more new characters, they're just going to be pushed to the wayside. So I think that's why we don't see Sengoku here. That's why I don't think we see like, the 3 admirals of 38 years ago here. I think Oda wants to keep it as condensed as possible. I mean, hell, look at Roger's crew. Roger has so many people in his group that we haven't even seen on this island yet, that we know are here. Like Rangram, Millet, Pine. Like, people have to cook up their own headcanon about what they're doing, right? They're like, oh, Millet Pine? He's currently fighting Barbell in an extreme diff battle to the death. It's like, okay, I love it, but, I don't think we'll ever see Millet Pine here. Maybe he'll be like a background detail, but, like, we already have way too many important characters on this island. If we introduce more, yeah, that's gonna be too much. But that is just me, y'all. Let me know what you thought about this chapter down below. Now that a couple days have passed, I would love to hear all of your additional thoughts and opinions. And that's pretty much it. In the pinned comment underneath this video, I will be asking you guys for your one-line predictions for the very next chapter of One Piece. And tomorrow, I know the week has already passed by, tomorrow we will go through them and pick 3 of them out for the prediction video for 1162. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, brothers, and stay safe.